Hi, Postmaster GS back with you. I just released another minor update to the PMGS StampFix app, calling it version 1.29. The feature that has been added with this version is not obvious on its face exactly what it does, so I thought I would do another short little video just to show you what improvement has been made. As with several of the prior releases, the main effort with this release was just to get more accurate results in the end. I do encourage anyone who's having difficulty getting an accurate result or a result that matches what they think it should look like out of the app to please contact me. In this particular instance, I had a user on one of the forums who was having some difficulty with an image. I asked him to send me the image, and once I got it and started playing with it, I realized there was an issue here that I could fix. So that's what this release is adding one additional little feature in an attempt to make things a little easier on you, the end user. First, a quick demonstration of what the issue was. This is an issue that's related to the batch from image process where you're extracting multiple stamps from a single image. This issue has been around since I first implemented that feature back in version 1.11. Never realized exactly how large of an issue it was because it's very dependent on what the background color is of your scan, and because the background color on my scan is a pretty dark black, I didn't really have this issue. I noticed it on occasion, but it was never a large enough issue for me to bother fixing it. But I did discover in trying to help this user out with his problem that for people with lighter colored black backgrounds on their image, it could be a much larger problem, so I thought I'd go ahead and throw in a fix. So we're going to start here with version 1.26, which is the prior version, and show you exactly what the issue is. I'm going to drop an image in here, and you'll notice when it loads the green boxes, and again, I've got a threshold setting here of 100, which is what I find to be a pretty good setting, so that's usually my default. You'll notice down here on the bottom this green stamp with a cancel on it. The boxes are all screwed up. That's pretty typical when you have a dark colored a dark colored stamp on a dark background with a dark cancel on top of it. Sometimes the app has a little bit of trouble. The solution to that is to drop the threshold. So in this case, if I drop it down to 75, it will fix itself, and there you go. You get the right number of boxes. The problem with this is if I go to edit individually, which will show you kind of a preview of what the end result will look like once these stamps are processed. In the prior version, it pulled this threshold setting of 75 and applied it to the stamps. Now you'll notice here the end results are not good. This one didn't get cropped well at all. This one didn't get cropped well. This one didn't get cropped well. This one. So the issue being that with certain images and certain backgrounds, the threshold setting that you need to get a good green box setting here on the front is not the same as the threshold setting that you need to get a good crop and rotate in the end. The only way to fix this previously was to get the threshold setting where it needed to be to get the right number of boxes, and then either export everything out and then redo it as another batch process with the correct threshold setting to get a good result in the end, or to go to this individual screen, change the threshold. In this case, 100 is a good setting. Apply that to all of them, hit reprocess. You'll notice we get a good rotate and crop on all of them with that 100 setting, and then save them from there. So it was adding an extra step because you had to have one threshold setting set to get the boxes where they needed to be. Then you had to go do a separate threshold setting to get the good accurate result in the end. And you know, folks who were using the app didn't necessarily, and again, if you don't know the code behind it and you don't use it very often, it might have been difficult for people to know that that was the way to get around that problem, and so we may have seen people getting inaccurate results because they just couldn't make those two threshold settings work like they needed to be. So what I've done with version 1.29, I'm going to drop the same image in here. is now, you'll notice there's a second threshold setting here on the batch from image screen, and I've done away with the recalculate button that used to occupy that real estate. I needed the space, but also the button's kind of unnecessary because changing any one of these settings is going to force a recalculate anyway. So now if I set that top threshold setting to 75 so that the boxes get drawn the way they need to be, I've got a fine-tuning threshold setting of 100. This is the one that's going to get applied to the individual stamps as they're processed. So now instead of having to go edit them individually and manually apply that second threshold setting, now I should be able to just hit extract a file. It'll process, and you'll see it over here on the right-hand side, dumping the images into the folder. And I'm not sure if you'll be able to see this. There they are. So nice, clean, much better result than would have gotten otherwise. So that is the only real major change with this version, is adding this second fine-tuning threshold setting, so that if you are the type that is using a background where you really need a separate threshold setting, setting the boxes from the threshold setting that you use to actually perform the rotate and crop, now there's two options. This top one will control the threshold setting that draws the green boxes. This bottom one will control the threshold setting that actually does the rotate and the crop. So hopefully that will give you better results and avoid having to either process the images twice to get the two different threshold settings applied, or doing it through this edit individually screen to get the second threshold setting applied. So all that being said, as I stated at the beginning of this video, I do highly encourage anyone to contact me either via email, through my website, through one of the forums, if you have an image that you can't get a good result out of, or get a result that looks like you think it should. Please, please, please let me know. The only way I can continue making improvements to this to make it as accurate as possible, especially as we increase the automation in the app, is for people to send me the images that they have trouble with, because again, I can only work with what I have, and of course, being the designer of this thing, my setup is pretty close to perfect when it comes to the app, so it's hard for me sometimes to know exactly what problems people are having out there and what features on this aren't working exactly as they work when I run them on my computer. So please contact me if you're having issues like that. If you do have an image that you can't get to process, please make sure you save the original image instead of overwriting it, so that I've got the opportunity to play with it and try to see how I can make it work, either sending you the settings that will make it work or tweaking the app so that you don't have to adjust the settings nearly as much. So give it a try. Let me know what you think. Look forward to your feedback.